There we go. So then welcome to this webinar and the Q&A on swearing in the context of child development. I am your host, Lisa Jaskula from Jaskula Mentoring. I'm a wellbeing specialist with an expertise in child development. So today I would like to talk about swearing, and I will start sharing my screen with you to have the presentation going along. Oh, no. Apologies, something's gone wrong. We'll work it out. So, and here we go. Hopefully that's all there now. Right, here we are at the presentation of swearing in the context of child development. First up, I would like to look at the definition, what swearing means, because we all have different ideas of what a word might mean. And it is the use of offensive language, especially as an expression of anger. And I think that's quite important to keep in mind as an expression of anger. I'm just wondering, I would like to know what your triggers are when you hear a child swear. If what comes up for you, what are the feelings that come up for you? And if you could share this in the comments, I would really appreciate that. And we can discuss a bit further and look a little bit deeper what's going on. I'll give you a couple of minutes for that. Right, I see frustration, shock, surprise, especially when they're primary age. Yeah. Sadness. I think there are loads of feelings that can come up when we hear a child swear. And it's all really rooted deep inside with us. So yeah, it really resonates with me when I see the words you've written down. So we'll just go to the next slide and look at the triggers. There's the moment of surprise, right? The moments of surprise, the concern, and the discomfort. It's quite uncomfortable hearing a child swear and using these big words. Just think like it doesn't feel right. You know, when there's so little and they come out with these big words, it just shouldn't be like that. And then you're worried they might be judged by other people. You might get concerned about what's going on in, you know, in the surrounding, you know, in their surroundings. And some people are just generally really uncomfortable around swear words and not very open, you know, like I think, especially like in the English language. Here in Britain, a lot of people swear. So a lot of children pick up on some of the swear words and might just use them in the different ways. So when you hear a child swear, how do you react or respond? I'll just give you another couple of minutes. I would like you to think about what do you do in these situations? Give alternative words and explain that's not a word we use. Lovely. Remind the child of the language we use in school and how we can find other words. Look, it's just like you're on the same wavelength there. Yeah. And how have you found that children respond to you when you do that, when you... Yeah, some children don't realize that they're swearing as they're very used to that language at home. I think that's a really important reminder, isn't it? And just how we need to then model a different way as professionals. Some children need some extra time to calm down before having a conversation. Yes. Need to wait for the prefrontal cortex to be activated again. Absolutely. Right, we'll move on to the next slide. And it is about prepare for responding. Exactly, you know, just take a pause, don't react. It's kind of like stepping back for a moment and like realizing again, that might be the language the child hears all the time. You know, this child might just express an immense amount of anger, you know, and it's just stepping back to really think about what the context is, right? They might just be experimenting with language. They might just try and test their boundaries, you know, or, you know, they might mimic someone else, family members, or, you know, like the, yeah, friendly neighbor next door. And then I think it's important to check in with your own emotions before they carry the response. Is that like knowing, are you angry now? Are you frustrated with the child? You know, so that we don't respond in a frustrated or angry way. Obviously, we're humans, it happens. And then I always like to just remind everyone of the concept of rupture and repair, right? There's always a time to repair whatever reactions we have, right? Within reason, obviously. But yeah, so it's just checking with yourself what is really going on for you before you can respond to the child. Is this all clear at the moment, or have you got any questions? All clear? All clear, good, wonderful. Right, so there are three main reasons why children might swear. They might experiment as a type of expression or for attention. So let's dig a little bit deeper. So experimental swearing, that's usually like at the younger stages and ages, where children hear words, you know, like adults use a lot of swear words here and there, you know, and some children might just pick them up and say them. Actually, there's this funny video, I wanted to include it, I forgot, about this little toddler who sees a goat outside and she's just pointing out in her Irish accent, which I cannot do, but she's saying, it's a fucking goat out there. Just because she heard other people use that term, and she was just, she didn't realize that this is a swear word, right? It's very, very innocent. So it's just experimenting with language. It's using the language that children hear. So if you are a professional working with children, it's also important to know that some children that might be 10 years old, but their social and emotional development might be delayed through adverse childhood experiences, and they might just have to try out the toddler stage again, you know, and then might just experiment with swear words, trying to test your boundaries, trying to see how you react. Just kind of like to be really aware of that, even with older children. you know, use that language. They might just be experimenting. As you said earlier, it's about explaining what the word means and educating them. I think that is a useful way out of this one, you know, just being open, obviously, you know, within reason again. Any questions? No. So how do we address experimental swearing? We stay calm and neutral, right? It's again that stepping back for a moment, checking in with ourselves, you know, and then just know that they're curious, they're playing with the language, and, you know, just really empathize with that part and with the curiosity of playing around with language. And then I would just use some alternative words. I used to do that with younger children. I still do, you know, when they swear at me, when they're like at the experimental phase. I will say things like, don't use strawberries. Don't use the word strawberries. It's the worst word for me. And it usually works, you know, as long as we keep reacting in the most horrified way, because they just want us to be horrified. They want to have a little bit of control. They'll just want to feel powerful sometimes. So yeah, it's learning new words, and we're expanding their language, right? Obviously in the everyday, we model healthy language. We model the way we want to communicate. And even if you have a child use a swear word, you can then just reframe the phrase. You know, if they say like, this is fucking shit, you can say like, oh, you really don't like it. This is frustrating for you. This is difficult for you. That it's just, rather than picking them up on the swearing, we just reframe what we're saying. Focus on the impact. So there we just expand the awareness of other people as well. So we're moving now, looking outwards and just showing that some people might feel uncomfortable, right? And then you can just check back in with them, you know, offer guidance, offer like just, you know, how do you think we can say when we're frustrated? Really just playing this out back and forth a bit, just so they have a little bit of practice. And then the next time they do it properly, just show how chuffed you are about their progression. Yeah? I hope I'm not just running through this too fast. Do let me know if I need to slow down a little bit. But if you have any questions, share away. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next slide, which is swearing as an emotional release. Right, we all know that when we stub our toe, when something just horrible happens, it feels better to swear or to use a strong word. It can just be that one word that makes us feel better because it gives that feeling of release, that like it is a way of just letting steam out. There's science backed up behind that as well. So it's the same for children. So they just, you know, if they're a bit older, it might be okay to find a safe swear word where they can just have a safe space where they can use it with a safe adult, where they can actually just say, you know what, homework is shit. You know, if you just agreed on that, or, you know, crap, or anything like that, just a word where they can feel like they have a bigger word of expressing themselves rather than saying, oh, it's just been frustrating. I don't think it has got the same sort of feel to it for most children. So I always think about context is really important again, you know, like don't talk to your grandparents like this, maybe, you know, it's just like figuring out. And also, how do we use language? Do we use it to upset someone? Are we using it to hurt someone's feelings, or are we actually just talking about the situation, right? Sometimes they just want to show you how intense the inner turmoil is that they're experiencing. And how else can they just describe it by just using the biggest swear word? I mean, I've worked in alternative provision many years, and there were a lot of traumatized children. and their development, social emotional development was extremely young, but their swear words were so grown up, but you could just see the pain that was like sitting in between that gap of development. Yeah, so it's just growing the vocabulary. And again, us as adults, all we can do is really empathize with the underlying feeling. It's like seeing that pure anger boil out. It's really just saying like, yes, I can see this is really difficult. And, we all know what it feels like when we're angry. We don't really want to be told that we cannot be doing whatever we're doing, like don't shout, or don't use that word. Don't talk to me like that. It's like, actually, I just need to have that moment of release. And that's what's happening with children as well. Any question before I move on? No. Natalia, is it all clear for you still?
It is all clear, yeah.
Okay, good. Right. I think I have sort of, mentioned a few things here, but again, like how do we address emotional swearing? First thing again, stay calm. Checking in with yourself, coming back to where are we, because like big anger outbursts can be quite triggering for us as well. But as long as we just remember it's not about us and it's more about what the child is experiencing, and the words don't actually, they're not meant to be thrown at us. The words are just expressing what they're feeling, right? So yeah, and then it's the relation bit. You go and connect with the child. You go and connect with the young person, and really just acknowledge what they're going through must be really difficult. Yeah. Then once we've done the relational bit, we can move on to the reasoning part. Although for some children, and I can discuss this at like another webinar, that will take a few months or years till you get to the reasoning part. But for most children, if they're in the right time development, once they've gone through their anger, once they've gone through the dysregulation, they will be able to access their prefrontal cortex, their reasoning stage, where they will be able to listen to what you've got to say. But we've got to go through the steps first, right? We co-regulate, and co-regulate means really just, we're present, we're witnessing their turmoil. We're just saying like, okay, I'm here, I'm witnessing you, I can see what's going on for you. And then the relational bit of just coming together. Look, you're not alone in this, we can do this together. And then eventually, once that's all done, you can talk through some strategies, right? You can teach some alternative language. You can problem solve together. You can invite the child or the young person in to really think about how we can express ourselves in a much more useful way that people will want to listen as well. Yeah. And then there's swearing for attention. So I have quite a few children like that who like to swear for attention. And it's again, like, it's that play with power and what you're going to do if I swear. And, it's just really just checking out, where you are in your groundedness as an adult actually as well. Like some of the children, they have such a difficult home life that all they can do is just throw a massive swear word at you to feel powerful, to feel like they're in charge. So again, if we stay calm in those moments, we are modeling what a safe response looks like, right? We are modeling to just stay calm in these moments, and these words don't hold any power, right? It's just yeah, you know, you have power, you as the child have power, but the words, if you use them, they have no power over me at all. I'm an adult. I know how to regulate myself. I know how to look after myself, and I know how to respond to you as the child. I can see you, the child, and I will respond to the child. So again, it's that thing of staying calm and connected to yourself. Right, I'll move on to the next slide. So what you can do with children that do it for power and attention, it's giving them intentional time. Intentional time is so powerful, right? Imagine you had like a packet of biscuits and you've eaten them all. And there's one left and you say, oh, you can have this one, it's the last one. Like, have it. Or it's like, oh, you know what? I've kept this last biscuit just for you. I've kept this for you. I saved this for you. Please have it. Can you feel the difference there? There's an intention of, I'm giving you a gift. Or, yeah, it's been there, take it if you want it, right? And it's the same with the time we offer to the children that we work with or our own children. It's so important to just say, you know what? On that day, I'm taking these 10 minutes just for you and me. That's our special time. That's what we're going to do together. Yeah, what? We're just going to do, like, we read the special book together, but it's that gift rather than, yeah, I've got time. You can come and see me anytime. No, it's like, I've saved that spot just for you, and that will make all the difference. Yeah, it will make a huge difference, actually. So if you can carve out time, you know, 10 minutes here and there that are like an intentional gift, that will make a difference where the child will feel so special and so seen that you can then work with the relationship and then, you know, guiding them out of the sweary habits. Leadership roles, or even like leadership games, but leadership roles in the classroom, for example, are great, where you have, you know, table captains or class captains for certain different tasks. Yeah, you give them something they're in charge of, and you know, like, just remember it from your own childhood. You know, it's fun to clean the board, isn't it? You feel so important. And if we just remember to give children an assigned job and say, like, well, you know, I trust you with this, they'll feel powerful. They're the leader of something. In the younger years, you can play games where there is a switch between power, you know, and leadership, where you play follow the leader or granny footsteps. Follow the leader is quite a good one because you have one child leading ahead and then everyone else is copying, you know, and then everyone gets a turn. Granny Footsteps is a great game to play where children just are in charge when they're turning around and you have to stop and you need to freeze and they can send you back to the back, you know, and they just love being in that powerful moment of just sending you back. And yeah, humor and playfulness in general always goes a very, very long way. Yeah, so any kind of like games you can think of where you can switch, you know, their moment of defiance, if you want to call it that, you know, their moment of testing out their power. If you are laughing about it, you diffuse that moment quite a lot. It's kind of, you know, like it's that like Coke bottle experiment, you know, you shake it up and like, you know, you're a bitch, fuck you, da da da. And then I come in and just do a little joke of like, oh my goodness, I got, you know, like, oh, this was just such a big word. Oh, I'm just tumbling over. But you know, what's the worst word? And I'm glad you never said that. It's strawberry. And you see them giggle. And then, you know, it's that letting the air out, you know, instead of just putting it tighter. So yeah, any questions at the moment? No? Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. So it's something that we've touched on before. It's considering trauma. So children who have experienced trauma may use swearing to express difficult emotions. Again, it's letting out steam. And also trauma can make children more sensitive to loud noises and strong language. So it's, again, how we react to that. You know, like if they're expressing something that's going on within them and they don't actually know what's going within them because it's just such a big experience that they're feeling within themselves. Children who are traumatized often have a delay or a developmental interruption. So they're much younger than their actual age. So I think we really need to consider this. You know, like when you hear yourself say phrases like, "Oh my goodness, he's just acting like a baby." Maybe consider that's where they're at. I think often we use language so automatically that's telling us something about where the child is, you know, like, "Oh, don't be such a toddler, stop whinging and whining." You know, all these typical behaviors that would be for a younger age. And you see that in older kids. I've had teenagers crawl under the table, you know, and like play hide and seek. And then you realize they are still toddlers. So we just need to be mindful of then how are they using language. Sorry, I'm just seeing a message here. Would you address the swearing when it is directed to kids and not adults, as they will struggle to regulate, accept the fact this happened? Yes, that is so important. And yes, thank you for that. So when they swear at other children, of course, you have to intervene. You know, it's separating them. And if you can separate them, it is about then first to regulate both of the children, obviously. You know, like someone needs to go and check into the with the child that's been sworn at, right? We need to regulate, we need to look after them. That's really, really important. Even if they just say, "Oh, I'm fine," you know, I think that's really important. It's just showing that they're seen. However, the child who did the swearing, it's really important for us as adults to know where they are socially and emotionally. And, you know, and even in their whole dysregulation. As long as we can just make sure that we're in a separate space and regulate together. And regulate together means just, you know, like I'm witnessing what's going on for you. And don't skip to reason. Don't skip there. Because I think we're always so quick to going like, "Yeah, but you can't do this, you know, like because this and this and this is happening to this other child. And did you understand?" There's no understanding. At that point, there's no understanding. The prefrontal cortex is offline. So really, really important. If we want to make sure that we get somewhere with them, then we need to do all these steps. So regulate together. And, you know, that's also can just be you sitting there calmly witnessing the steam still coming off, right? And just wait a moment, just do nothing. And usually what I do with a dysregulated child, I go into silence, because I've noticed a lot of people just go into, I mean, I used to be like that too. Like I tried to talk them out of it. I want to fix it straight away. I want to fix it now. So it's silence. Just be there, be present in the most calm way you can be. And then I start doing something else. And it's got nothing to do with the child. I might talk to a different adult, but like I'd be like the thing of really calmly say, I did this the other day, actually. I said, I'm just going to build myself a den. I really just need a den. I just feel like I need to be safe in a contained space. So I was just modeling what you could need if you're dysregulated. The child wasn't able to get there. but I was able to get there. So I was just modeling that. And then I walked off and I tried to get a little bit of playfulness in. I just said to the other adults, just make sure that he doesn't go into my den, okay? Because, like, that would just really, like, rock my boat. And I could see that little sparkle in his eyes. And of course he went into my den. And I was really happy about that. And then he was able to feel powerful in that way, that he was able to experience feeling powerful in that moment. Again, I haven't addressed anything that happened before because he wasn't able to get there yet. But now we've had co-regulation. We had the relational bit of like, oh my goodness, you've taken my den, right? We're now in a playful way. And then we can go over to reason. But again, I did that in a playful way where I was like, oh my, like I had a doggy and I was talking to the dog of how it really frightens him, when he starts kicking, when someone starts kicking doors and, oh, what could we do? And that whole playfulness really, really worked. But this is a child that was 6 years old. I don't know if you have do you have a certain age in mind? 10 to 11. Yeah, I mean, like you can sort of adapt it a bit. I mean, do you feel like that they're quite young as well, like socially, emotionally? Yeah, so it's just really important, even definitely struggle with past trauma. Yeah, then you will have like maybe like the baby, the toddler deep inside of them, um, which then needs attending to. I mean, if we have time at the end, we can maybe discuss a bit further what it looks like developmentally and what you would have to look out for. Um, yeah, so that is a tricky bit, especially if they get violent as well. I don't know. And we can discuss this at the end and just go a little bit deeper into it. But trauma is really important to consider because that will slow social and emotional development down. Right, let me just move on to the next one. Neurodiversity and swearing. That's also something we need to consider if you have a child with ADHD and autism. There's the impulsivity. They will just blurt something out. They struggle with emotional regulation. So, sometimes the brains just fire up and something comes out and they don't even realize that they're doing it. So again, with neurodivergent children, I would really look into educating them out of the heat in the moment, right? It's those moments of shared conversations, if that's possible, or even if you have a session in class where you talk about the effects of swearing, but it needs to be in a regulated state. How often does it happen that children, when they're they're dysregulated, and then they're being like kicked out of class, and then they're getting all that education? I think what we need to really start doing is educating all the children. So it's not always just that one or that one, because it's always the kids with trauma or neurodiversity, or like other difficulties that are going on for them. And these are the ones that keep getting educated on them. But really, I think we should just start throwing the information out here and there for everyone so that the kids don't always feel like, oh, everyone just wants to talk to me about emotions and like how should I behave, and and they notice it, that they're different there, and yes, of course they need more help, but I feel we should really understand, or share our understanding with children more broadly, how to talk more respectfully to each other and what impact language has. then yeah, children with autism take swear words literally. So like if they're at the receiving end, that might cause confusion as well, you know, like a translation difficulty, which won't make sense if they're being called your dick, you know. It just wouldn't make any sense and could cause confusion. So yeah. Right, let me move to the next bit. We're coming to the end. So, swearing is a normal part of language development. So I think that's something we should remember. It's part of, you know, it's part of our culture. It's part of what's happening around us, you know. So I think it's always about the nuance and really like the balanced view. And always checking in with yourself. What's going on for yourself inside? What's been triggered? You know, what childhood memories have been triggered as well. So what can we do? We are patient, understanding, and we offer alternatives. It sounds so easy. But, you know, like with the relational approach, I believe we can get there, you know, in a respectful way that children will want to learn and will want to know how to express themselves in a more reasonable way. Yeah. Right. Well, thank you. And this is the end of the presentation. However, we still have time for questions. If you would like to ask any questions or if you have any comments, I'd be excited to hear.
Can I just do it through audio? Would that be
easy?
Of
course, of course.
So my question, so I understand the different approaches we could have with the children that swears. With regards to the children that has been swore at, what would you recommend us to do? So this is where it becomes a bit tricky because we know that the child that is swearing needs a space, needs to regulate and have suffer is struggling with some things going on in their lives at the moment. However, we also need to protect the other children that are the recipients of that. How would you address that?
I absolutely agree, and I think it's really important, and that's where I would definitely have, like, you know, if you can manage to have like two adults in that situation, one of them scoop up the kid that was swearing, but then the other one is really scooping up the child that was being sworn at, you know, because I have witnessed this a lot of the time as well, where children just, you see them doing their thing absolutely perfectly, you know, that it's so well regulated, and they hear the swear word and they just, you know, sort of stuff it down. They're not happy, but they can handle it, and they know that the other kid may have some difficulties. So I totally agree, and I think there it's really important to also co-regulate and witness what's been going on for that child. And it's really about the communication and really showing up for that child that's been, you know, sworn at. Absolutely. And it's like finding strategies of, you know, knowing not to take a person. It's then that resilience building, right? Whereas it's not right for the other child to swear at them, but equally we need to build up the other kids in their resilience, and know not to pick up these words as their own. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Would you, the child that has been swearing, would you like make him accountable for that when he's regulated and, for example, speak with the person that he has addressed or he has swore at and have a conversation about that? Would you acknowledge with the other child once they are regulated that?
So I think that's a really valid point. And again, it's kind of like, yes, I mean, yes, I would. I think repair is important, and it's important that we show them how to repair.
Okay.
I would be careful how to do it. Because if a child doesn't feel sorry and they're being told to say sorry, then that's counterproductive. Right? That's why we need to go through the first steps first of talking about but no, not talking about. First, we regulate together. I really see that you're really, really, really in pain there, right? You don't even have to say it. You just need to be there. And sometimes even co-regulation works really well. Like if you have the child sitting on the floor, you sit on the floor in a different spot in the room. You're on the same level. You almost like copy what they're doing. And it's kind of like has got a regulating effect, and you don't have to say anything, nothing at all. Then you go to the relational bit. When you notice like, oh, okay, now they're observing me, they're trying to get a reaction from me, you do something else that would be interesting to the child, right? And that way you've invited them in to do whatever else you're doing, and then you can open up the reasoning part. Then you can have like, I don't know, maybe you're coloring something, right? You say like, oh my God, I loved coloring with these pens. Look at the effect, you know, I love drawing these. All right, Sarah, you're going. Yeah, okay. Yeah, bye. And where was I? Oh yeah, so you're doing something else. It could be, you know, drawing, it could be drawing some patterns. You could invite them into just playing tic-tac-toe, you know, like with the noughts and crosses. Things like, you know, something that's so simple, but gets that child in, and then it doesn't require too much thinking space. And then you can talk about like, oh, I wonder how that other child is feeling. That was really tough earlier, wasn't it? Like, what was going on? You know, like you can talk things through what was going on, like, or what was going on for you. I think I would check in with them first. You know, what was going on for you then? Well, that's really quite a strong reaction to whatever happened. And, you know, I wonder how the other person feels because they may have not understood what was going on for you. And, you know, you swearing at, you know, I would really narrate it actually. I would talk it out for them because you mentioned they're traumatized. So there might be, you know, like if they're 0 to 6 months emotionally, developmentally, then they can't access the thinking part.
Yeah.
They can't. They need you to narrate everything, and then maybe you can do together like a little card to say sorry.
Okay.
You could say things like, hey, you know what? How about we draw a little picture together, or we write a little card to say sorry? You know, something that could be personal, but maybe not too overwhelming.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
It really does. It's
Because,
just
yeah. Let's say, yeah.
It's just finding the balance, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just probably giving the child a little bit more time. And what you said is good to just do something else and not focus on what just happened, just distract from that and then go back later. I think is the most important thing that I take.
Well, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because in school life, you never have the time.
Yeah, it is hard. Because obviously I also want to support the child that has to go through that. And the effect that has on the other children. But I want to help the child to understand that and to also feel understood. It's very important.
I absolutely agree, because otherwise you have another child further down the line that's traumatized because of the misbehavior, you know, or the difficult behaviors that have arisen.
Yeah, that's why I think that at the end, that's why I asked you that question, because the way I work is I understand how you're feeling and it must be hard. However, the impact that you have had on others now, as you said, we need to put things right. We need to work on it. We need to make sure that we recognize that if the child is there.
Yeah, putting things right is a really important thing to teach children. You know, like especially like for neurodivergent kids, the whole concept of saying sorry is quite difficult for them.
Yes.
But for example, if they broke something, you know, putting it right would be to fix it. Yeah.
Yes.
Or yeah, like saying a swear word. I think we just need to be a bit creative of how we can say sorry and mend relationships it might not be possible to say sorry in person unless they feel comfortable to do so.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much for everything.
Right, well,
That has
thank
been
you.
really helpful. Thank you.
Oh, well, what's been the biggest takeaway you've had so far?
So for me, it's give the time to the child and myself to move away from that situation and go back to it after. And
Yeah,
to also make sure, which I already knew, but work harder on making sure that the child doesn't perceive at any point that I am disappointed or sad about what happened, and make sure
yeah,
that they still feel understood, that I understand where the child is coming from. I get it. I'm just also in a position where I need to support every child in my school. So, but yeah,
yes. Yes, amazing. But yeah, it's
yeah,
that thing of not taking these things personally, right? And it can be
yes.
tough, especially when
Um,
you're tired and overworked and you have to be in
yeah,
10 places at the same time. It can be tough, but as long as we just keep having those moments of like just checking in with ourselves first.
but yeah, it's been
Amazing.
really good. Thank you so much for
Well, thank
everything.
you so much. Thank you for coming.